Have you ever wondered what's really going on behind the scenes at these giant corporations? When they make those huge market-shaking decisions? Well, it turns out there's this invisible script, a set of hidden rules that pretty much guides everything they do. Today, we're going to pull back that curtain and take a look at the fascinating world of game theory.
So let's start with a puzzle you've definitely seen a million times. You're driving down the street, you look to your left, there's a gas station. You look to your right, another one. And their prices? They're almost always identical, right down to the last cent. Now, is that a coincidence? Some kind of secret conspiracy? Nope, it's actually a strategic game, and we're going to figure out exactly how it's played. You see, at the heart of all this is one fundamental choice. On the one hand, businesses could totally cooperate, keep their prices high, and everybody makes a nice profit. But on the other hand, there's always that temptation to break ranks, right? To just undercut the other guy's price and try to steal all their customers. That tension, right there, is the engine that drives pretty much all business rivalry. Okay, so before we can understand the outcome of any game, we first have to know the rules. So let's break down the three key pieces that define all these strategic showdowns, whether we're talking about the cola wars or the global race for tech dominance. First up, pretty obviously, you need players. These are the decision makers, the companies that are actually competing against each other. And the classic textbook example, of course, is that decades-long battle between Coca-Cola and PepsiCo. They are the star players in the global soft drink game. Next, every player has to have a strategy, and this is just what it sounds like. It's the plan of action they choose to take. Are they going to slash prices to get people in the door? Are they going to flood the airwaves with a massive new ad campaign? Or maybe they'll launch some kind of brand new, game-changing product. These are all the different moves they can make on the board. And finally, hey, what's a game without a prize, right? The payoffs are the outcomes. It's what each player gets after everyone has made their move. And yeah, this is usually measured in profit. Cold, hard cash. But it can also be about grabbing a bigger slice of the market share or hitting some other big business goal. Okay, now that we know the rules, let's get to the drama. Because this is where it gets really, really fascinating. We're about to see how two perfectly logical players, each one just trying to do its best for themselves, can actually end up in a situation that's way worse for both of them. This is called the prisoner's dilemma. Let's walk through this. Imagine you are airline A. First, let's say airline B sets a high price. What's your best move? Well, you should set a low price, right? You'll steal all their customers and make a killing. Okay, but now what if airline B sets a low price? Well, now you're kind of forced to set a low price too, just to compete. So, do you see it? No matter what airline B does, your best move is always to go with a low price. The problem? Airline B is sitting over there doing the exact same math. So they both lower their prices and they both end up in that bottom right square, which is the worst possible outcome for both of them. And this isn't just some abstract theory. This exact thing happened in the real world. Back in the 90s, the US airline industry got locked into these just brutal price wars. And the result? The average cost of a domestic flight dropped by almost 20%. Now, that was great for us as travelers, but it was an absolutely painful lesson in the prisoner's dilemma for the airline's profits. So if both companies are naturally drawn to this worse outcome, do they just get stuck there? Well, a lot of the time, yeah, they do. And this brings us to one of the most important concepts in all of economics, one that explains this stable, even if it's not ideal, standoff. It's called the Nash equilibrium. This was developed by the brilliant mathematician John Nash. And a Nash equilibrium is basically a state of balance. It's a point in the game where every single player has chosen their absolute best strategy based on the strategies all the other players have chosen. Once you're in an equilibrium, nobody has a good reason to change what they're doing. A really great way to think about it is as the point of no regrets. Let's go back to our airlines. That situation where they both charge low prices, that's the Nash equilibrium. Could airline A look back and say, man, I should have charged a high price instead? No way, because if they had, they would have lost all their customers. So given what their rival did, they made the best possible move. No regrets. That's equilibrium. Okay, let's zoom out a bit and see how these big ideas actually play out across different industries. Because I promise you, once you know what to look for, you start seeing these strategic games everywhere, from the grocery store to your smartphone screen. So take the advertising arms race between Coke and Pepsi. Just in 2023, they spent a combined total of over $9 billion on ads. Why? Well, it's another dilemma. If Coke suddenly stopped advertising but Pepsi kept going, Pepsi would grab all the market share.
And if Pepsi stopped but Coke kept going, Coke wins. So they're both locked into spending billions just to stay right where they are. It's a classic high-spending Nash equilibrium.
And if you want to see a high-stakes game, look no further than the tech world. The global smartphone market is totally dominated by just a few giants. Think about it. Apple doesn't release the new iPhone in a vacuum. You've got Samsung, Xiaomi, and all the others watching every move, timing their own product launches and their pricing to either get ahead of Apple's move or to react to it. Every single decision is a calculated move in a huge strategic chess match. But what happens when the game never actually ends? This is what we call a repeated game, and it can change everything. In the $3 trillion global oil industry, these companies know they're going to be competing against the same rivals year after year for decades. So an aggressive price cut today might win you a little bit in the short term, but it's basically an invitation for retaliation tomorrow. That shadow of the future forces them to think long term, which encourages more cooperative-like behavior to avoid blowing everything up for everybody. So why does any of this matter? Why is it so powerful to look at business rivalry like it's a game? Well, it's because this way of thinking doesn't just describe the world around us. It actually gives us the tools to understand it and maybe even predict what's going to happen next. I mean, game theory helps us decode why businesses act the way they do. It lets economists predict how markets might shift or how competitors might react to a new move. And it even helps governments design smarter policies to spot and stop companies from colluding in ways that hurt us, the consumers. It's an incredibly powerful lens for looking at the world. And really, it all boils down to this one simple but really profound idea. A game is just any situation where your outcome is tied to the choices of other people. Your fate isn't just in your own hands. It's all interconnected. And understanding that interdependence is the absolute key to understanding modern business. And all of this leaves us with one last really big question to chew on. If all of these companies are just players following a set of rules in a game, what would it actually take to change those rules? And could we ever design a game where everyone, from the businesses to the customers, actually gets a better result? It's definitely something to think about.